Welcome back to another furniture makeover. This is Walessa from A Life Refurbished. Today I have a mid-century modern tallboy dresser that has beautiful walnut veneer on the front drawers. The top has Formica, which I'm gonna have to paint unfortunately, but I'm gonna try to stay away from paint as much as possible with this transformation, so don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Do you guys know what I was thinking when I saw this dresser at the donation center? I was thinking I have no business buying another dresser because I have a 3-car garage full of furniture already waiting for me to work on. But for me, beautiful dressers like this one, it's kind of like Lay's potato chips, you know? You can't have just one. So here we are walking out with this beauty. The walnut wood veneer is cheap in some parts and very thin in others. I'll be pulling all kinds of restoration tricks off my sleeve to keep the majority of the veneer intact. First, let's wipe it down with some simple green, and I'm also going to be using my carbide scraper to scrape off some sticky glue residue from the top. I spotted a lot of dust bunnies when I first inspected the dresser, and I can't start sanding knowing those are there, so I'm gonna get rid of them first. I'm keeping my sanding with 120 grit on the gentle side, knowing the veneer has some fragile areas. Not really worrying about the laminate top too much, except for removing its glassiness. That way my paint attaches to it without issues. For the most part, the sanding process went smooth except for a couple of areas close to the edges where the veneer was so thin, my sanding skills didn't stand a chance. I flipped the dresser on its back to have better access to the vase. And once I started sanding it, I thought I should try and remove it altogether to make it easier on myself for sanding. I've tried removing bases from other pieces before and I'm not always successful at it. Sometimes the glue doesn't want to give in, but I'm still gonna try with this one. To my surprise, there was no glue attaching this one, only a few screws that needed to be removed, and voila! Make it easier to sand. With the vase upside down, I spotted a couple of fragile spots on the veneer that were not noticeable before. I sanded with extra precaution around them and thought of removing the legs to finish the sanding. Once I was done with those, I reattached them, making sure that the washers and nuts were really tight. All we have left to sand is the drawers, where the challenging part was to sand the handles. But I pulled out this nifty tool among others that have helped me a lot in the past. These are all the attachments that I'm gonna be using, plus the one that's already on the Dremel to sand these handles on top of my hand grips and my carbide scraper. I'm gonna use all the things. Using the concave angle of my sanding grip, I sanded the outer curved parts without putting too much pressure. The nifty part of this gadget is all the attachments that you can use. This cylinder-shaped sanding sheet will, for the most part, sand the inner part of the handle. Don't be deceived by the size of this tool, because even though it's small in size, it's powerful. So be mindful when choosing the speed number. Personally, I like to play it safe, so I always choose a lower number and then test it out. Otherwise, it could leave marks or compromise the shape of the wood. For the tougher parts, I'm using this other attachment that reminds me of candy corn. And in case you're curious, I spent a full day sanding down all the handles, but I just know that it's gonna be worth it. I cleaned the dresser by vacuuming a lot of the dust off, and I removed the remaining with mineral spirits. And just look at this wood. It is just absolutely stunning. Today I'm gonna be addressing all the repairs, and I'm gonna start with the veneer that's chipped and barely hanging in these two corners. And this fast drying glue from DAP has definitely become my go-to for small repairs. It cures in 30 minutes. Normally I like using wood chips to create a gap and insert the glue, but I ran out. So I'm using a piece of veneer that came off a different piece. Earlier, I sanded the edge of the base where the veneer chipped to make it smooth. To cover the discoloration created by the missing veneer, I'm applying early American stain from Varathane. Hopefully you guys can see, but right here, the veneer was damaged before I sanded. It's not perfect, but I'm gonna try to match it so it's not as obvious. Trying not to paint, so I'm gonna try to disguise the little bit of damage that there is. To fill in wherever the veneer had chipped, I'm mixing early American stain from Varathane with wood filler. Basically, this is a customized color wood filler. I'm just trying to blend in my repairs. A couple of the handles needed some repairs too, this one being one of them, when a small piece cracked and started detaching from the rest of the handles. So I added a little bit of glue, but the crack was still noticeable. There was also another crack in a different handle that ran across from one side of the handle to the other. And even though when pulling at it, the handle didn't seem to be going anywhere, I wanted to make sure it was secure in place. I got a little more creative this time and mixed some sawdust with glue and stain and cover both cracks. While the glue will keep the handle secure, the sawdust and the stain mix will cover the crack. And to be honest, I was kind of impressed at how well this little blend worked. You couldn't even tell the cracks were there after I was done. Finish all the little touch-ups, I'm adding stain to a couple of the drawer dividers that look too light in comparison to the rest of the dresser, and in my opinion were a bit distracting, wiping off the excess stain a minute later. Can I have a moment of honesty with you? I've seen other people refinish dressers like this one, and they kind of go about it the same way. They revive the wood on the dresser, except they leave the laminate intact, and the laminate has a very dull brown. I prefer to add a little bit of black paint that is actually gonna enhance the rest of the wood grain. This is just my personal preference. We're approaching the finish line. I'm applying 3 coats of high performance top coat from General Finishes to the top. Since my paint is water-based, my top coat is gonna be water-based. As for the rest of the dresser, I'm choosing a durable oil-based top coat, which is called Arm Seal, and it's also from General Finishes. First, I'm gonna wipe down the surface with a tack cloth to make sure that my piece is dust-free. I'm using a sock to wipe it on. I'm gonna wait 2 minutes and then I'm gonna remove the excess with a lint-free paper towel. I'm gonna be applying a total of 3 coats, waiting for hours between one coat and the next. I also like to point out that I don't remember ever needing these many Q-tips for a project like I did with this one due to all the really tight spaces. To top coating the base, I thought that the legs were looking way too light in comparison to the lighter parts of the rest of the dresser. So what I ended up doing for the second and third coat of the top coat application, I mix a little bit of stain with the top coat and apply it on the legs only, and that just gave them the perfect brown. Okay friends, it's time to look a little bit into the past to see where we started today. I couldn't be happier with today's results, and as always, I'm looking forward to reading your comments, letting me know what you think of today's makeover. I will see you guys next time.